Here are my top 10 travel tips so you can have and plan an amazing vacation that will make all your dreams come true. Seriously, if you haven't seen my travel videos, watch some of them after this and you'll see how I plan them and my tips to plan them in this video. Tip 10, if you want to see the whole world in your lifetime, find a great deal on a trip and then find out why you want to go there. Most people have predetermined where they want to go and then try and find a deal. And most of the time it ends up you can't find a deal and then you're willing to pay whatever high amount to go there. Every country has tons of things to see and do. If you do this enough, you will travel and see the world. It just may take time to get to the places that you want to. I don't know how many times I have planned to go somewhere and then I found a deal and then I looked up what there was to do in that country and then found so many things that made that country amazing. Iceland is expensive, but at that time I found a few great deals to go there. I didn't know much about Iceland at the time, and up until that point I thought it was just a place Instagrammers went to go take pictures at the Blue Lagoon. But I found so many amazing things to do there. Amazing canyons, kayaking through glaciers, ice caves, a variety of waterfalls, a bubble hotel, northern lights. I just had so many things to do, and I only decided to go there because I found a great deal there. And actually it's just super expensive to go to Iceland, so I was lucky to have found a deal to go there. Tip 9, plan your trip yourself. And don't just plan it, constantly dream about your trip. That's what makes it fun. Planning trips to me is just this fun challenge. I always see people out there going on these deals for tour groups that lead you on a week's trip. I just would not do that. You can see so much more and how you want to see it and avoid things you don't want to do. And you won't be pushed into tourist traps like you would be with these tour groups, especially if you follow the other tips as this video goes on. And those tour groups, they could just really slow you down. But I know there's a certain comfort that people get from going on those. I just would avoid them. Plus, I love the adventure. A lot of trips can just be very adventurous. Now, planning it out may sound like a lot of work, but to me, it's just fun. Finding all the hidden gems is awesome, especially when you find that thing that you think you're just gonna love and not many people know about. Like, if you watch my Ireland or Thailand travel videos, you will see tons of things you can do there. However, each location, if you wanted to go to Thailand and go with a tour group, you can pay and you're gonna go into their cookie cutter travel vacation and it may not be what you want. Now, it might be especially tempting to book a tour group with Thailand if you speak English and you're worried about getting stuck somewhere not being able to speak their language. But the truth is, it always works out with the language barrier. And it's normally pretty easy to get by if you speak at least some English. I wouldn't have been able to tailor the trip to myself like I did with Ireland and Thailand. Like watching Muay Thai fights, getting tons of massages, having a suit custom tailored to me, riding elephants for a day, and seeing Dwa Sutep at sunrise, amongst all the many other things I did. I wouldn't have been able to do those if I went on one of those custom groups that go for a week long and you travel with the same people the whole week. Tip 8. Always ask yourself, is there a better way to do this? In San Francisco, I wanted a great shot of the Golden Gate Bridge that everyone goes to. But instead of taking a picture in a random spot, I found my favorite spot to take a picture of the bridge. Also in San Francisco, people normally go and take pictures in front of the Painted Ladies, also known to some as the Full House houses. Possibly, these are the second most photographed houses in the United States. But I wondered if there was a better way to experience them. And so I tried to find an Airbnb that overlooked the houses. Then what I found out is one of the houses actually was an Airbnb. I don't know if it still is, but now when I talk to people about the Painted Ladies and about the pictures they took there, I get to say I stayed in one of those houses. Or how about Maui? Everybody loves all the beautiful stops along the road to Hana in Maui, but I wanted to find a stop almost no one else knew about. It took a while, but I found this place that we had all to ourselves. Or how about Kirkjufell in Iceland? Most just go there and take pictures of it. But I found this horse ride through this untouched land that you can go and you can horse ride and get a good view of it. So my point is, look for the best way to experience something. Don't just go there and experience it how everyone else does. There often is a better way to do something, especially the common things. Tip 7, make sure everyone understands what kind of vacation this is that you're going with. Keep everyone involved in what you're doing on your vacation plans and get them to see your vision and get them excited about the same things you're excited about beforehand. When I go somewhere, I always like to explore, and there isn't a whole lot of relaxing until the last day or so of my trips. My wife and family already all know this about my vacations because I'm telling them constantly. But they're excited about it because I constantly tell them about the highlights. So they're willing to do whatever I want to do to get them to those highlights. A lot of times I run options by them. For example, in Thailand, I wasn't going to do a Thai cooking class because it didn't seem that fun to me, but I had a big gap in the itinerary, so I ran a few options by my wife and she was really excited about the cooking class. And it was awesome. And really, really good food. The best food we had while we were in Thailand, and we learned how to make it while we were there. I was also surprised when my wife was excited to go in a shark cage in Hawaii, considering she doesn't even really like to swim or be around fishes that much, but she thought this would be a cool little adventure for her to go to. And it wouldn't have even been planned if I wasn't trying to get my wife excited about the trip and planning it in advance. It also might be important to know what they don't want to do. Now, if you really want to do something and they don't want to do it, then you can plan around that too. So you can go and maybe they can do something else. In Iceland, my wife justifiably didn't want to swim in between these tectonic plates because the water was freezing cold from a glacier. So her sister decided to go on that activity with me instead, and we had a lot of fun. And my wife had just a lot of fun with my baby as well, going on little walks instead. So if you plan it out, you can plan it so everyone has a great time. That's my point. Tip 6, expensive hotels are only good if you are staying in them. If I am in a location for 4 days, but most of those days are adventure days, I book only 1 day at the super expensive hotel and the rest at a cheaper hotel. On Oahu, I was doing stuff all over the place most days on the island. I mean, I did this amazing 7-hour hike. It was the best hike of my life. I'd recommend it. So why would I want to stay in an expensive hotel for that day while I'm doing that hike? The last day and a half, I stayed at the luxurious Royal Hawaiian, which is that pink hotel in Hawaii. So here at this hotel, my wife and I relaxed a ton while we were staying at that hotel, and we didn't waste our money when we were doing other things on that hotel. On the big island of Hawaii, I stayed at a treehouse. It didn't make sense to stay there the days we were on the other side of the island, like when we were kayaking with dolphins. And so, once again, only book the days you need to. And that will lead us into some of the other tips, as you will see. Tip 5, see as much of the country as possible. To do this, I book many hotels and book them close to the activities that I'm gonna be doing in those locations. Most people on vacation only book one place for the entire vacation, and therefore they don't really venture far off from that place, and then they don't get to see the whole country. So book as many places close to the things that you want to do and don't feel compelled to stay in one place the whole time. It actually saves a lot of time if you stay in a variety of different places because you don't lose the time driving back once you drove to the place. A lot of my trips end up being kind of like a road trip where we drive 2 to 4 hours, do a few attractions there, stay a night or two, and then travel 2 to 4 more hours the next day, and so on and so forth. And a lot of times people get tired and they take naps in the car anyways for 2 or 4 hours that they would have just done at a hotel or something of that sort. In Ireland, we pretty much drove all the way around the whole island, and I am so glad we did it that way. I wouldn't have driven by some of the most beautiful places on the earth I have ever seen. and we wouldn't have got to experience the whole entirety of Ireland. So what we did in Ireland, we drove up to Northern Ireland and we did a few things there. Then we drove a couple more hours another day to a castle, then another couple more hours to another castle, and then this quaint little hotel. And each place, there are so many fun and beautiful things to do and to see and adventures to go on. And as long as you have fun with the people, it's a great time, even when you're in the car. Now, there is a limit to that. For me, I never drive over 6 hours because at that point, I just consider flying, even if it's domestic flights within the country that you are at. It is a little stressful to be in a car longer than that for some people. So that's my rule anyway. Over 6 hours, I fly to the other part of the country. Less than 6 hours, and we drive and we stay at a place near that spot. Tip 4. When using TripAdvisor, anything 4.5 to 5 stars or circles or whatever they have is going to be great most of the time. Anything below 4.5 is very risky if it's going to be good at all. That doesn't mean don't plan anything lower than 4.5, because some of the best stuff I have done on vacations has been under 4.5. But make sure to plan a lot of stuff that is above 4.5 stars and below. Make that the exception. I check everything on TripAdvisor before I finally decide whether I will do it or not. Some things can be made to look cooler than they are on TV and social media and Instagram. So if it looks fun, check it on TripAdvisor. If it gets high marks, it is likely to be good. For example, the Dole Plantation in Oahu looks so fun, especially that little labyrinth they have makes for some great pictures and drone shots. I wanted to go pretty bad, even though it only had 3.5 stars on TripAdvisor. So I went, and to be quite honest, the labyrinth was not fun. It was poorly organized, and once you were in it, it was not that pretty from the inside, and it was flat out pointless and really confusing why we were even there. There were some cool things about the plantation outside the labyrinth, like all the pineapple things, but for me, I consider the Dole Plantation to be the definition of a tourist trap, and it is completely skippable in my opinion. Tip 3. Variety is the spice of life and the spice of your vacation. Soon I will be going to Italy, but I postponed that trip from last year because I couldn't find enough variety in the activities there. Now I've gone back and I've found plenty, so I will likely go within the year. Now, as an example, here are different things I look for, almost like a checklist for each of my trips. Great food experiences, scenic locations, historical sites, amazing hikes, interactive animal experiences, cool photographic opportunities, water activities, relaxation, authentic shopping, interacting with locals, sporting events, unique experiences, seeing untouched parts of a country, seeing only things that you can see while in that country. So I try and check off as many of these as I can before I choose a vacation spot. Tip 2, stay as long as possible. For each trip that I go on, I leave the second I am off work, and then I don't get back until the night before I go back to work. I know some people like a day of rest when they get back, and that's fine if that's your thing, and I understand why you want to do that, but that's not what I do. Now, while that extra day before you go back to work and unwind after your travel might help, I personally can't help but think of the memories I missed out on by coming back a day early. In a month, you won't even care about that day you got home early. But things you did on that extra day on your vacation, you can think about for forever and talk about for forever. I personally push my vacation to the time limits. If I left the big island of Hawaii early, I wouldn't have had time to see the lava spilling into the ocean like we did on this part. If I left Ireland early, I wouldn't have got to see the Gap of Dunloe in Ireland. If I left Iceland early, there wouldn't have been time to see Diamond Beach for me. And so you can just see that there are always little extra things you can put in maybe into that last day. And tip number 1, have fun. Just kidding. Don't you hate it when people just think of something so they can give a generic obvious tip at the end? I'm not that lame. Okay, real tip number 1. Plan everything and plan it way in advance, and yes, plan it with some relaxing time. And let me give you a few reasons why. I normally plan a rest day, but also plan 5 other things we could possibly do in case that rest day we actually don't end up wanting to rest. And normally they're kind of like lesser things, not the main things that I want to do on the trip. Now, let me just say something against planning early. Sometimes you do get better deals if you wait to the last minute to plan, but you will miss out on a lot of the best things that you can do in a place if you don't plan at least 6 months in advance. In Ireland, if I wouldn't have planned it in advance, I wouldn't have been able to go on this island where only 180 people get to go on it a day. This is that island where they filmed Star Wars, and it is just beautiful. In Hawaii, if I hadn't planned in advance, I wouldn't have been able to book a doors-off helicopter ride across the islands, which in my opinion is way better than the doors on helicopters because every seat is a good seat in a doors off helicopter. And here is my bonus tip that you didn't know you were getting. Wake up early and be the first if possible. This is an unfortunate truth about vacations. You have to beat the tourists and the tour buses if you want to experience things by yourself and maybe get the best pictures. But it's different than waking up early in everyday life. Because once you're done with an activity, you can nap as much as you want. You don't have to be anywhere or do anything except for the things you plan. In essence, there's no job to go back to, or there's no soccer game to go to. You can just take a nap or just take a break after that. The Giant's Causeway in Ireland is super packed with tourists. Everyone goes there. But we got there before 9 a.m., before all the tour buses could get there, and we got some amazing shots while there. At 9, when all the tours show up, the causeway just becomes, I don't know, just feels very touristy. But we were able to just go there, have fun. But later that night, we relaxed in a castle that we stayed at. Or for a negative example, when we went to Iceland, we didn't do this for Reynisfjara. That's the black sand beach there. And we had to share the landscape with just tons and tons of people. But if we would have went early, they wouldn't have been there. I have a lot of travel videos coming up, as well as videos about other big purchases we make, which is what I do on my channel. I talk about health, home automation, travel, tons of other things. So like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.